look at this. Oh, we were very close. Oh, move things around.
Move things around.
Well, how you doing, bud?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you, Paul?
I'm doing
PJ?
very well. PJ, wow. Depends who talks to me at what point in my life, I think.
Well, if it's your mom, would be your full name.
Always, because I'm always in trouble. In one way or another, I'm always in trouble. So it's Paul J. Herman.
Yes. I've just recently started doing that with my son. I for some reason, it evokes more authority when I say his Jagger Sean Raya. Like, it's just... Now
he's like,
I'm serious.
He's under one though. How old is he?
No, I know. He's one, just over one, but he doesn't care.
He's not responding to his full name though, is he?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't care what I say.
He doesn't care.
Just more as I'm more of a suggestion. I'd make more suggestions, and I'm kind of his litter mate at the moment. He doesn't really see me as an authority figure. It's more so I'm a pain in his ass.
Yeah. Well, you'll know in the next 3 or 4 years who runs the house.
Yeah, that's right. If he could give me the finger, he would, but he doesn't know how to do that yet. But
perfect. I think our guest has kids, so I'm sure that he can give us some parental advice in one way or another.
I'm going to tell you the best quote I've ever heard in my whole life was from our guest. I asked the first time I ever met him. I asked him about parenthood, and he said, "Look, I've got." At the time, he had 3 daughters, and he said, "When you have, son, you worry about one penis, but when you have daughters, you worry about all penises."
Wow. That is wisdom.
That's
that's great.
And
by the way, quick aside, I'm seeing that some people coming in from chat. If you're in chat right now, say hello. Be sure to pop in, say hello, tell us where you are, what's going on. Why are you here? Maybe are you here for me because of my awesome beard? Because I look like a wizard a lot of the time. Or because you're curious about our head shaving techniques. I don't know.
What razor do you use?
Actually, if you do want to know that, I use Dollar Shave Club.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. Actually, a couple years ago, before the pandemic, before the pandy, I call it.
Yeah.
I started getting into Dollar Shave Club, and they send you, if you don't know, we're not sponsored by Dollar Shave Club, by the way. It's just something I use. No. They send you a handle, and then each month they send you 4 blades. And it is good to just not worry about hair products or lack of hair products.
I love it.
From Australia. Nice. Hey, everybody. Look at that.
Believe it or not, I used to have hair like past my ass.
From Australia. I don't know if you know. Same.
You did?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hair just down to my butt.
Yeah.
And I was playing jazz at the time. I was a jazz drummer. And I don't think anybody really believed me, because if you've got long hair, that means you play metal, in case you're wondering.
Sure. Of course.
You can't play jazz music.
How could you play jazz if you're buzzsawing?
You cannot. Exactly. No. It's literally impossible.
It is literally impossible
to play jazz music. So what's been going on, Sean, for the past week? What's been going on?
Same old.
Anything in particular?
I have a 1-year-old, so you can pretty much guess what I've been doing all week. Actually, my son learned the word no this week.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that's all I hear. Everything that.
No, wait a minute. Does no mean yes? Like no is just a derogatory, or just a.
No, he knows what
variable?
No. He certainly knows what it means, because I've asked him to do a couple things, and I know he understands me. But
is that a phase? We're going back to the kid situation again, which I'm okay with. But like,
is it a phase?
I think that's a phase where you say no, where they're like no, and they're testing fences in one or another.
Oh yeah,
am I right?
He's been doing that for a long time. So
nice. Murray's in the house.
What's up,
Victoria, BC? I like it. Nice.
Yeah, welcome. No, I think it's like just a point where they start learning the word no, but he's been evoking his dominance on me for much longer than that.
It's time to put your foot down, I think, right?
Nah,
what do you
pointless.
do?
It's pointless. It's literally pointless. You just got to say, you know what? I didn't give that. I don't really care about that couch that much anyway. So go ahead and dump the ketchup.
Look, I have 0 kids, but But people who know me from my other streams know that I always like to voice up on what I would do if I was a parent.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, people have learned right away to not let PJ parent their kids.
I would just say, you know what? Invest in a whole ton of like garbage furniture and like plastic bags, and just let them have at her.
Is it like when somebody's learning how to drive a car and it's a standard, like you just know that transmission's a write-off?
It's more like watching maybe watching baboons play squash, as Mitch put it. It's pandemonium. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's relate it to drums. Has he been sitting on that kit behind you often or not?
He that's the one thing he likes to do is he plays the drums, he plays this piano, and he sings into the mic.
And I don't remember if we talked about it last stream. Are you capturing any of this? You press and record?
Of course, yeah.
And it's
Absolutely.
Just improvisation music.
Someday he's going to have a wedding or something of importance, and all of this is being digitally being stored.
Hey, Jagger, remember when you were less than one?
Yeah.
And you wrote this amazing song?
Yeah.
Do you feel to the music the same way that like when a child draws a picture or something, like instantly it's amazing, right? And let's be real, like children's art, I'm a big advocate of, like I mentor kids, I work with kids all the time, I really love working with kids. But you kind of put a little bit of goggles on with
of course,
I'm going to try to say this sensitively. The things that kids create are genuinely very innocent and amazing and very cool. And then I go ... If you were a famous painter, you'd look at it and go, actually, that's horrendous. And let me tell you why. And then the moment you're like, oh, wow, a 3-year-old drew that. He's like, oh, in that case, it's great.
Yeah. You heartless bastard.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But if I were to take that drawing to Picasso, he would look at it and go, you got a lot of work to do, bud. You got a few more lessons. And I'm like, oh, no, a 1-year-old drew this. And he's like, oh, in that case, it's actually really tasteful. I really like it.
I'm scared to give Jagger any sort of marker or crayons because I feel like he's already sort of able to do enough damage without that. So, yeah, he the first time he got sticks in his hand, he rapped. And of course, if we got drummers in the audience, he got the first time I gave him a set of sticks, he promptly went to his mom and he swatted her across the ankle with it. Ooh. And we all know how much that feels, you know.
Yeah, you can't walk that off easily.
Yeah, so.
But how do you say ouch without terrifying the child?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, he's his own guy.
Okay. Do you feel like you're being walked on because it's your first child? I'm gonna shoot right across the bow here. Do you feel like when you have a second child, you're gonna have certainly a little bit more a different approach, I guess, right? You can understand. Wait. Sorry, I keep stepping on top of you, but you can understand why a first child is raised differently mentally than maybe a second child, right?
Absolutely, you certainly learn, and then it's too late because they're past that phase, and you go, "What the hell just happened?"
Right.
But not walked on, pretty much dictated to more than that.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's not really. It just your life is not yours anymore. It's theirs, and they.
Okay.
It's like it's reasoning with a 1-year-old is my god, it defies imagination. I literally, it's hard. It's a hard job, but not for the reasons you think it's a hard job. It's an impossible job. Let's put it that way.
Impossible, no less.
You got if ever you wanted to learn to let shit go, become a parent, and you'll learn to let shit go really fast.
Hey, Frederick, welcome from Montreal.
Bonjour.
Welcome to the stream. It's kind of how do I say this? This person here is an artist. I know this person.
Yes,
and she knows Picasso quite well. So that was a bad example because Picasso tried to emulate children's innocence. Okay, so that's
actually if when people say often people say who are your biggest influences and they think they're drummers, but my biggest influence is actually Pablo Picasso.
Really?
Yeah. The
Tell
man
me why.
was well. He was just untethered. He was born to be an artist. Everything about his life was art. And then I first discovered him actually through his light art. Is he and a French photographer got together and Picasso would take a pen light and draw in the air, and then the photographer would flash the bulb. And when you're if I don't know if you know much about photography, but when you have a small aperture in the dark, you'll catch the pen light drawing, and then when you flash, the light will illuminate the photo. So you see Picasso standing, and then there's this drawing that he's done. But to me, what was so prolific about it was that when you see the drawing he did, it's not on anything tangible. He was drawing in light. So what was in his head was coming through the light. So there's no painting to keep other than someone recorded it with a photograph.
Absolutely.
If ever you were going to see what happens in an artistic exchange, whether our guest playing his drum parts or Picasso doing a painting, you're seeing in that particular piece his process unfettered. Like there's no, and I just think that Picasso was he just was an artist at heart. He was never anything other than what he was, and he evoked artistry. And I just, if I could be as good a drummer as he was an artist, that would be, I would be happy with that. Or as good a dad as he was an artist, I'd be happy with that.
I like the comparative on that. Being a good dad is a technique and a position as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well said. Raised in Long Island, living in Atlanta, Georgia.
Nice.
We've got all walks of life. I don't think that's a thing. I don't think that's what it is. Well, is there anything else you and I kind of need to catch up on, or we're good? What you got liquid in front of you? You feeling good?
I got my water.
I'm coffeeed up. I'm ready to hang out with our guest.
Got some maple syrup, so we're good.
You got a whole thing of maple syrup.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Is there anything wrong with drinking straight maple syrup?
No, I think it's probably healthy for you. It's got vitamin C in it. That's what I heard.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah. It's from a tree.
I do. Quick aside before we bring our guest in.
Okay.
I do know of, I think it was a live stream a while ago where they would do shots of maple syrup, like lots of shots of maple syrup. That seems like diabetes or just sugar overload. Like,
yeah, you start tempting fate, I think, when you do that.
Yeah, but let's be clear about it. Maple syrup tastes so good.
It's really good. Yeah, I have to admit. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's not mess around here. The people who are here,
yes,
although we're borderline entertaining, and we've been giving out some really good parental advice to everybody.
Yes. Yeah. Just give it.
You got it. For those who are here and have just arrived, my name is PJ. And this is Sean over here. Sean, we're from Drum Geek, and we're hanging out with drummers.
Yeah.
And our drummer tonight is somebody that everybody is going to know in one way or another. We're going to look. Yeah. Sorry, you
soundtrack of your child. Definitely the soundtrack of most people's childhood.
Yeah.
This man was responsible for.
And if I'm being brutally honest, there's a few projects that he's doing right now that I'm very, very interested in.
Totally.
And I'm interested in learning a lot about. Let me bring him in. Mr. DeVitto, how does it feel to be cursed with being a nice guy?
Well, first of all, let me tell you something. You guys are talking about Picasso with a flashlight. Somebody takes a picture of it. Now you're talking about art like you're talking about Terry Bozzio as far as drums go.
Sure.
You know, like that. What if somebody wanted to buy it? You can't. He probably said after a while, "Can I make money doing this?" And he was like, "No, there's nothing there. You can't sell anything."
You can't.
Forget it. I'm going home.
Yeah.
But, you're talking about the kids playing and other people judging them. Do you know how many these little stinking brats, these videos I get all the time of kids playing drums? I've had
Sure.
enough to hear.
Yeah.
To hear.
Enough.
Come on.
Come back when you're 25 and talented, huh?
Hey, Liberty, did you see this? Liberty, did you see? I've seen it 350 times already. How many times? Come on, give me a break.
I love it. I love it. Well, we'll get to that because you're working with kids a lot these days.
Yeah, I don't like them.
Oh, fair. That's cool. Well, Sean feels the same way. He's got one stuck in his house, and he's probably not fully happy with it either.
The little one's an asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Sean, I got a 5-year-old. Well, she'll be 5 next month. February.
Yeah.
So my oldest is 41. 41. Goes 41, 37. And 33 or something like
Liberty,
that.
don't act like you don't know. Just say it confidently. Nobody's going to be able to look it up right away. Just say it as if you totally know it. Come on.
And all girls.
All girls. Yeah, all girls.
Wow.
We're still worried about all the penises in the world.
Oh, every penis in the world is a threat.
Yes.
Protective father. Well, as a touring musician, you're definitely aware of that world a little bit more than the average, somebody going to law school or something. Well, maybe that's just as bad now that I think about it. But
it's funny because when you were a musician, we had Just the Way You Are came out, and it was like me and Richie Canati used to talk about we wanted every girl in the world, and now I have 4 daughters. It's like what a curse.
You're a little more selective now.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh man, I hear you. Oh, what's this? I have maple syrup liqueur from Montreal. It's delicious. Oh, just going back to that conversation.
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
I like maple syrup, by the way. I do.
Yeah.
You like maple syrup?
You know what? If I order from a Middle Eastern restaurant and they give you the bread, what's it called? The pita bread.
Yes.
I won't eat it with the meal. I'll at the end take maple syrup and dip it in the maple syrup and eat it. I love it.
Yeah.
Liberty, I'm gonna one up you. Whenever I go to a diner and get coffee, I put maple syrup in my coffee.
Okay, that's over the top.
I'll do it right now. I'll go over there. I got my coffee in front of me. I'll load her up with maple syrup. It's just sugar. Let's be clear.
Listen, by the way, did I show you my Picasso?
Just go for it. Go for it. But golden. Well, let's go back to that. Let's go back to that really quick because you were talking about Terry Bozzio performing, and Picassos are almost like one of a kind. Like, how do we feel about experiencing things like in the moment versus a lot of things like we're hanging out here right now, and people can rewatch it afterwards. But there's something really cool about jumping in chat and being part of something now, right? Mm-hmm. How do you feel about shows that you used to play? Sorry, I'm segueing back. How did you feel about playing shows back in the day with Billy Joel, for example, where you couldn't rewatch it afterwards? The show was the show, right?
Well, that's one of the downsides of being the musician. You don't hear yourself. I've never seen myself play except for on a video.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can listen to yourself in the studio. You do a track and you go in and you hear yourself what you did. It's actually like an out-of-body experience because you were the guy concentrating playing the drums, and now you're the guy judging the guy that played the drums.
Right.
So that's kind of a weird thing, but you can never, ever see yourself play live.
No.
I'd never considered that. So do you feel that when you get off stage and people are like, wow, that was amazing, you're like, yeah, of course it was amazing. I have no other way to corroborate that. Yes, it was great.
I love everything I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the end. No, I like that.
If you didn't, you wouldn't do it.
Yes. Yeah. But I think you hit it on the head there, is that nowadays, whenever I play a show, or I'll use myself as an example, I always have a GoPro next to me specifically so that I can play it back and go, did those fills work? Did it not during rehearsals? Was there communication happening? I have video evidence of how well that rehearsal went, enough that I can translate it to the gig. Who was your feedback during those days of shows? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, we had a lighting designer and a sound guy out front. They would always come back, and the worst was when you really felt like you played really well, and you'd say, "What do you think?" And they would like, "That sucked. That show sucked." Yeah. It's like, I thought, you really felt like you played good.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's why I say it doesn't matter what you play. It's like I always love what I play.
Yeah. Did you get paid at the end is always the deal. Did I walk away with a bit of a paycheck at the end and like, yep, okay, well then I did what was required. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Just as long as people are moving in their seats, then I feel good. you know.
Yeah, you got it. You got
They're
it.
getting off, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
I remember we talked one time, Lib, and you said, like, if I used to play to the back of the room, that's how loud and excited I would try and be so that I could see people in the back of the room moving.
Yeah.
If you think about that, sort of the prolificness of that, what's the difference between that, as someone who's never played a stadium, and someone who's, say 20 feet away in a club? Are they different feelings, or are they similar feelings?
Well, when I played in clubs, it was a similar thing. You eyeball somebody in the crowd and you start playing to them, like
Right.
make them feel like this is for you. I'm doing this for you. Usually she's really good looking.
usually.
No, I mean, when a guy's watching you too, you're kind of like, you look and you go, hey, watch me. I don't know. It's just a good feeling to make people move. I think that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. You hit it on the head. Sorry, you unlocked a key memory for me in particular. Was I remember playing a show. I was in a swing band, and I remember my dentist showed up, and it's weird to see them out of context. You know what I mean? Like you're used to seeing them, but he showed up with his wife, and because they knew I was playing, and my eyeballs were locked on them on the dance floor, dancing the whole night. And it was it was really in my infancy of drumming, and it really unlocked what my role was right away. Was when my eyes were there, and I could see the reaction of what I was doing.
Yeah.
So does that resonate with you? Yeah.
Yeah. In the studio with Billy or whoever I'm in the studio with, I'm a drummer. But once those tracks are recorded and we're doing them live, now I have to entertain. I'm not just a drummer. A drummer can be really boring just being a drummer.
Yeah.
You have to entertain. You have to have somebody looking at you going like, he's doing something that I just can't comprehend in my head, but he's making it look so easy doing it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said entertain. I had somebody say to me recently that if majority of the audience are not musicians, right?
Right.
So I had somebody say to me, look up air drumming. Look up air drumming. And if you ask somebody who is not a drummer to air drum, what are they going to do? They're going to do. If you don't do that, then you're not living up to the expectation of what a drummer is in their head of what a drummer is supposed to be doing. Yeah. And I do notice that with you. You're a very big drummer. Your motions are big. You know how to entertain. Is that something that you learned or something that you incorporated into your playing?
That was something I guess I developed. This is what I always say. I'm not really a drummer. I just play one on stage. Because when I go on stage, I become the drummer.
Yeah.
So the over-exaggerated things was, you start out in a club and you could start to do things, and then you go to a theater and your arms can go a little higher. By the time you get to an outdoor stadium, you can, flail.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got told I look like a stenographer when I drum, so I need to be a little bit more dramatic.
Dude, I've been told like I was like a fire hose that was on full blast, out of control.
Yes. Well, that's how you get the gigs. You make it look like people look at you and go, that guy's working. That guy's getting stuff done back there.
Yeah, when they come back and they go, I'm tired watching you.
Yes, exactly.
Well, you're a wimp then. You're a wimp.
Yeah. Well, we know bass players just stand in one spot and don't move at all. They're doing the least of the work, right? No?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Can I take it back a little bit in time for a second? I'm married to an Italian, and I know you're Italian. And I was thinking about recipes growing up. If there was growing, we're going to get off the drum topic for a quick second. And if you got questions, please ask them in chat. Go for it. But I was wondering, growing up, was there any like home recipe that would just hit home for you that always reminds you of when you were a kid, even before you were drumming?
Let me tell you, I make a badass lasagna, eggplant parmesan. Bad. It's really good. You would love it.
Okay.
My sister makes it too, but I make it better than my sister. And it's recipes that my mom used to make. Yeah.
Now, is the lasagna, Lib? I just found this out not too long ago. Is it the northern style lasagna or southern style lasagna?
Here we go.
Well, Sicilian, half Napolitan. So we're south. We're Sicilians,
Yeah. So, because one of the lasagnas, you got to do the braciole. You got to do the whole, like, it's a 18-hour process.
That's the one my mom used to make. That's you got to start with pork in the sauce. You have your garlic, your oil, and then you do the pork in there. She used to use pig's feet, pig's knuckles, all this kind of stuff.
That's right. Yeah, because that was the point, is that whatever you had around. Oh, yeah.
Are we sharing the recipe?
We should share the recipe. Absolutely. Well, I just making the braciole, number one, like that process. My God, the woman that I watched, it was her mom's recipe, and it was 18 hours to make this sauce.
Like sourdough? Yeah.
Oh, it's so and even half of the sauce, half of the meat that went in to make the sauce, she threw it away. That didn't even go into this. It was just for the flavor.
Now, she made beef braciole, or she made pork with the pork?
Pork braciole.
Yeah. We used to sit at the table, pass me the football. Throw me
That's amazing.
Pigskin.
Yeah, that's right.
Edward here loves eggplant parmigiana. It's actually a town of Mascali in Sicily. Oh, did not know that.
I still have family there. We go, the pandemic slowed us down, but we used to go there like every 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the different pastas what they put on the pasta. Yeah, if I was there for 2 weeks and they gave me 10 different pasta dishes, probably like 7 of them I never had before. I was like, this is amazing,
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And did you grow up in a household where like those meals were generally put in front of you, or
everything had red sauce on it?
Cool.
Everything.
Yeah.
Totally.
And that like young Liberty was growing up on pasta. That was carbs. Lots of carbs kept you fueled.
Lots of carbs. Yes.
Wow.
Lots of carbs. If I said, what are we having tonight, Mom? She said, we're having steak. It would be steak pizzaiolo.
Oh.
Something like that.
There would always be a pasta contingent in there. Oh,
look, somebody's writing in Italian over there.
Tutti Mangari.
Everybody.
Tutti Mangari.
I love it. Yeah, that was important to me, knowing, like, I joked about it before we started here. I was like, well, we're 3 guys talking about stuff, but I want to know things like, what's your cannoli intake, and what type of what type of cartoons were you watching when you were growing up? It's all molded you into the person that you are, right?
I feel that same way, and that's why, getting now to my book, why I wrote the book is because I can't stand shows like American Idol and all that kind of stuff like that, where they think you make it overnight. You win a contest and you become popular. No, man, you have to pay your dues. So the book is about me coming up and all the bands that I played with and what happened in those bands and whether it was good or bad. I wrote it in the book to what led me to play with the one of the biggest single artists in the world. How did that happen when my grandparents came from Italy and then all of a sudden now I'm playing with the biggest single artist in the world?
Yeah.
Right.
And that in itself is a great story. That you were within a group of musicians, and I'm generalizing here, group of musicians, and a lead singer finds you, and now you're the supporting band for this lead singer, right?
Right.
And that's powerful. That's a very powerful journey for a family of musicians to support somebody else, right? Yeah,
it was amazing. The band was called Topper that we had, and we all became Billy's band, You could say that he got us, but we could also say that Topper got a piano player that sang and wrote great songs.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
Your sound becomes the unique sound, right?
Yeah. And everybody said, they saw the band when we were on tour. Turnstiles was the first album we did. When we were on a Turnstiles tour, they were like, wow, you guys were so tight. Of course we were so tight. Topper was playing for years before we were playing with Billy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which is pretty unique when you think about it. Like most bands that start, the band has either been with the singer for forever but you guys had already established a sound, which lots of people were familiar with. And I find that interesting that the two even sort of a similar situation with Journey and Steve Perry is that sort of the two forces came together by divine intervention or whatever you want to call it. But to me, some of those situations, it's just like you couldn't have contrived. I would imagine you guys couldn't have contrived coming together with Billy at all.
No. And just the opposite way is Toto, all the recordings that they did, and then they become a band by themselves. And if you listen to like Boz Scaggs and stuff like that, you hear that Toto sound on the Boz Scaggs record,
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Just a quick aside here with the question: was Al Miller ever an instructor of yours, early influence?
Oh, wow.
I took one lesson. I'm self-taught. One lesson from Al Miller. I was more interested in his daughter. She was really beautiful. But so
it's a good segue. I like it. Yeah.
I couldn't pay attention. So
nice.
But Al was a great guy. I mean, he was a wonderful person.
And he taught a lot. He taught a lot of very well-known drummers as well.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's funny. I do have a note here that you were self-taught. And how does that? Was there any, like you answered it there with Al, for example, but was there any influential people that you connected with that you felt you needed to adapt in your playing at all?
I have to say, I've always had favorite drummers. Like starting with Ringo. My mother loved Gene Krupa.
Okay, yeah.
And until today, Gene Krupa is the guy for me. It's either been Gene Krupa or Buddy Rich. Gene Krupa is my guy. I love how he played.
And, Animal. Those three are really the three.
Animal's great.
Ronnie Verrill.
That's right, exactly. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
So, see, now you made me forget what I was going to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, but Gene Krupa was the influence. Yeah.
Yeah, but I learned more about music because I'm self-taught from people who didn't play instruments, that just loved music. Like the shoemaker in my town when I was growing up, he would give me like a jazz album and go, "Hey, have you ever heard this?" And I would take it home and listen to it and go, "Wow, this is really cool. There's licks on there that I want to learn, put it in my rock feel." Or a friend of mine come over and go, "Did you ever hear Dave Brubeck? You got to hear this." And it's like, "Oh my God, this is fantastic." And what can you take from that? You take little pieces from every little thing you do, and you listen to, and then you develop your own style rather than listening to one thing. Like everyone listened to Neil Peart for the longest time, and there must be 27,000 Neil Pearts out there.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Totally.
It definitely made it so that when you got an album, you put it on, and you spotlit a song you wanted to listen to and really focus on. But and excuse my ignorance, how did you necessarily find out who the musicians were? How do we find out a little bit more about those musicians and kind of go down the rabbit hole at that time?
Oh, well, come on. The thing was, it was an album, and you could turn it over and it would listen.
Totally. Yeah, that's true.
Would listen to that. Yeah. The only musician. Now, when I met Hal Blaine, I got really sad to find out that Hal Blaine was 8 of my favorite drummers. Because he played on so many, Beach Boys albums. He played on Monkees. He played, Association, all that stuff. There's all stuff I loved, and the drums were like, "This is fantastic! I love this! I love this! I love this!" I think the other guys were the drummers that were in the band.
Right.
It was Hal.
Yeah.
And those were session guys, and I think that is the disassociation that a lot of up and coming musicians, they want to be on stage performing, but then, and I might say this lightly, there's a maturity that kind of happens, I feel, where suddenly you realize I can play on lots of albums with lots of people, and I don't need to be in one band and tour all the time. I've got opportunity to share more.
And they can make lots of money doing that.
Totally, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
It wasn't until like James Taylor and then the Billy Joel times and Elton John, where it was the singer-songwriter that had his band. You know, it was his name on the marquee, but he had his particular band. Nigel Olsson was the drummer with Elton for the longest time, you know. And so that happened a lot.
It does, correct me if I'm wrong, it does require definitely a switch in the head that when you're in a band, you get to be very creative. I'm speaking generally here, but you get to have a lot of creative input. But when you're a session guy, and I'm kind of segueing into the session, you do need to put the ego aside and just realize the producer's got a vision, the song has a form which needs to happen, and how do I contribute to that recipe? Does that, resonate with you?
Yeah. But Billy gave us free rein. The parts that you hear on the drums on the records, I came up with. Between the other guys in the band too, they would make they would put their input in, and so Billy gave us free rein. When we went into the studio, the first day, Billy might have 2 songs written. Everything else was little bits and pieces that he had, ideas. And he would run them past the band, and we would play them down, and if they started to swing, then he'd go home and finish the song. So it was like that. Creating those parts to those songs.
So Liberty, I've heard you talk about that before, and if I can go into these waters a little bit, when you did go through the process you went through legally, was there a sense that you said, okay, enough is enough. I have to be honest about the fact that we did this contributed directly to how good these songs were. Was that a means by which you were able to, I guess, tell that story, or how did that work?
Well, my whole thing was always like, if Billy is the father of those songs, then I'm at least an uncle, because we took those songs, and his manager said to us, she heard, he was married to his manager, Elizabeth, right? Yeah. She said, I heard those songs when he left the house, and then I heard them when he came home. They were totally different.
Totally different, yeah. So do you think that there's got to be a way, I think eventually, and I anytime I talk to younger drummers, and if ever they've asked for advice, I don't know why they would, but I always say, like, learn to songwrite, at least learn chord structures, learn ways of being involved. But is there a way in the future we can, especially like, I've talked to a few other drummers who've been on some major tracks, and if it weren't for their input, that song wouldn't have sounded like that. How can we move forward in the future, like, to make sure that gets recognized and even in many times paid out?
Well, the hard part is like, take 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. It's that's Steve. If Steve didn't play that,
right,
it would never be that song, right? Yeah. But unless he went up to Paul and said, look, I'm going to give you this drum part. How about, can you throw me a piece of something?
Yeah.
And if Paul said, what he might say, no, forget it. I won't do the song,
Right. Yeah. How do you know as a musician creatively that you're giving something that's actually worth way more than you might be thinking it is in the moment, right?
Well, I don't think you think that way in the moment. You're just doing your job.
Yeah.
Like coming up with the groove to Just the Way You Are. It was like, I didn't know it was going to win a Grammy. We weren't going to put it on the album. It was like, this is wedding stuff. Let's not put it on. We were rock guys. We wanted to be,
Right. And you're playing with a brush and a
brush and a stick, and I learned that playing weddings, playing bossa novas.
Amazing.
Oh,
wow.
It does bring up a good point. The business end of things, and we don't need to go too deep in it, but there's a lot to learn as musicians. That the business is equally as important as the kit playing, and we learn that over years, and sometimes we learn that the hard way, obviously. But would you agree that at a young age, learning the music business is as important as learning?
I think so now. I think I wish I would have known more about the business.
Yeah.
You know, it's there's a lot to learn. Everybody thinks it's chops, it's all this kind of stuff. You know, I did the documentary Hired Gun. I don't know if you saw it.
Yep.
But it's like when Rob Zombie is talking about, like, you got a band and the guitar player left, or one of the players left, and you have to replace him. Now, there's 1,000 guys that can play his parts and copy it and everything like that. But then you want a guy that really looks good. That breaks it down to like 500 guys. Then you want a guy that moves great on stage. That brings it down to about 100 guys.
3. Oh.
No, then he goes, then you want a guy that you can hang with 24 hours on a bus. Yeah. That brings it down to maybe 2.
Right, right.
Yeah.
An underrated conversation that happens within the band, right?
Yeah, I heard a guy got fired off a Sheryl Crow tour because he left his seat up in the bus.
Totally.
Yeah. Oh, that he had to pee and he left the seat up.
Guess that's the end of that.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Let's go here really quick. Mr. DeVitto, I've been playing drum. I haven't been playing drums for about 2 years. Have been playing drums for 2 years. Seems like a steep hill to climb to get back into shape. How should I approach it? How should I focus to get back into shape? So now I understand that. He hasn't played for 2 years. How do you get back into shape? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he's playing with a band, or for me, I sit down and I have to go to my mother-in-law's basement, so I go down there. And
you're not going to the roof with the amazing view in your building?
No, I save the view for when I'm pissed off. So I go downstairs and I put on my headset and I'll play to tracks. I'll pick some R&B songs to start off slow. Simplest stuff. But with feel that feel good, that have parts. That's how I'll get back into it slowly. Yeah, and then start to do something more complicated or something like that.
Yeah, I think during this time, a lot of people are away from their kits unnecessarily. So people are getting back slowly and need that motivation and inspiration, right?
Now, for me, it's very physical. The drums, the way my style that I developed when I was playing with Billy when I was 24 years old, playing with man. Now that I'm 71, it's kind of like a curse. It's a blessing and a curse because people come, but it gets harder. It used to be sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Now it's like 4 Advil and a Snickers bar.
Wait. 4 Advil, Snickers bar. Okay. Noted. Oh my goodness. I'm going to bring something up because I'm actually genuinely curious here. Let me see.
You're welcome, Frederick, by the way. He said thank you.
Yeah, you got it. I'd like to know, because it kind of segues into this situation.
Lords of 52nd Street.
Tell us a bit about what's going on with the Lords of 52nd Street. You're back in full force, feeling good. What's up?
Full force.
You're not messing around.
Here's the deal. I was still not friends with Billy when the Lords of 52nd Street were asked to be inducted into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. I almost said, no, I don't want to do it. But for Russell and Richie and the late Doug Stegmeyer, I said, okay, we'll do it. We got together. They asked us to play maybe 1 or 2 songs. We ended up playing 5. The crowd went wild. Now, there are so many tribute bands, Billy Joel tribute bands, that it's ridiculous. Somebody said, actually, Ron Delsner, who is one of the head promoters that promotes Madison Square Garden and all that stuff like that, said, you guys should be doing this. You're the real guys. You guys should be playing the Billy stuff. Now, the thing is, there's been other bands that have been Billy Joel's band. Right. We are the Billy Joel band. That was the name, Lords of 52nd Street, we go and we play all the songs that we played on. And the name comes from the back of the sleeve where Phil Ramone named us the Lords of 52nd Street when he listed the credits.
I love it.
Yeah, so that we're having a blast doing that. I mean, it's great.
Dates happening.
We got a couple of things going on.
I'm thinking a little psychologically here, in the sense that you're obviously you're the drummer on all of the tunes that you're playing, but and I don't want to make this sound disrespectful, but when you look up, does it feel like you're kind of in a cover band, or does it feel like a tribute band? But when you're listening through the monitor, you're like, I'm back, baby. I'm back. This feels great, right? But is there a fine line here? You know?
No.
Good.
It's really us. It's really us playing it. Everybody in the band has some kind of connection to Billy Joel. A lot of two of the guys were with musical directors for his play Movin Out. So stuff like that. We got a singer that does the Billy part, that plays great, and sings great. There'll never be another Billy like Billy was. And,
sure. Right.
I don't think Billy thinks he's like Billy was back then, but we can get a young guy to do it, and we sound like we did in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
I guess that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
You still got drums and saxophone, that solo instrument. And now you got a guy that's young that sounds like a young Billy.
Yeah.
Right.
And we do the songs in the original keys of the record, where Billy doesn't do that anymore. He's dropped the key. So we actually sound more like Billy than Billy does.
Well, I guess that's what I'm alluding to, is that like while you're playing, you're listening to that monitor, you're like, this is it. This was the heyday. I hear it every night that I'm playing this. I feel like I'm back. Is that do you have that sense of pride when you're playing each show kind of again?
I do. Malcolm Gold is our bass player, and he was one of the musical directors on Movin Out, and he plays great. You can't replace Doug Stegmeyer, who was in the band when on the records, but Malcolm comes close, and he's really great to play with. Like as Dennis Delgardio, who plays guitar, plays great, Yeah.
So, but people walk away with a Billy Joel experience.
Yes, they do. Without the price.
Quite. Well, for the moment. Because I was going through some YouTube footage, and I was like, everybody should check out the YouTube live footage of what you're doing to get excited, because it sounds phenomenal. Like it literally feels like the music, the band. Yeah. Of course it is. It goes without saying it is, but yeah, it just feels so good. Yeah.
Yeah. We got actually have more guys in our band, that original guys in our band, than like Skinnerd and 38 Special and
amazing.
A lot of those bands,
What do we got here? What's your favorite song to play live? We'll put a big smile on your face.
I can tell you, it's easier to tell you the songs I don't like.
Oh, nice. Go for it.
I don't like My Life. I don't like the song My Life. I just don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
You know what I do like to play, and we've been playing it in the set, is All for Lena, which is on Glass Houses.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a hit, and it's a lot of fun to play.
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate of track 11s. I'm a big fan of them. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of songs that we tried to play with when I was with Billy that didn't go over. Like one of my favorite songs that we recorded is called Laura. It's on the Nylon Curtain album. One of my favorite tunes. We tried playing it with Billy. People, you could see the line of people going out getting beer or going to the bathroom or something. They want the hits. They want Still Rock and Roll Me.
Yeah.
Piano Man.
Yeah. And we talked about it. Majority of the time you're playing to non-musicians who you're right, just want to hear the hits. Yeah, I hear you. Do you wish DB could join you on occasion? DB?
David Brown? Who says it? David Brown. Yeah, I love David. David's a great player. And what was great about David? He played great with Russell Javers. They played great together.
Oh, yeah.
And it just came like automatic, the two of them playing together. And where Russell has to show other guitar players the parts to fit in with Russ,
Gotcha.
David was a great player, or still is a great player. And I'd love for him to come and play with us.
Sit in.
Yeah. But he lives in Boston now.
A little far away to be doing a gig.
Well, there's a lot of Yankee fans that come.
Oh, yikes! Exactly. Well, somebody had asked further up, where were you raised and live these days? I guess. Right?
Oh yeah, that was.
I was raised on Long
Edward.
Island. I was raised on Long Island, Edward, and
Yes.
one town away from Hicksville, where Billy was. We used to play. We used to play in the same club together before we actually knew each other. We just said hi to each other in the club. But and but now I live in Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn, yeah.
Let me pull up this. Oh yeah, it's coincidental you say Brooklyn because. Sorry. This is what I'm uber interested in. Here we go. Are you ready? I'm uber interested in this. I'm interested in Little Kids Rock. I'm a big advocate of, and people that know me know that I mentor a lot of kids. I'm a big fan of working with kids, contrary to my terrible parenting advice, but neither here nor there. I love mentoring and inspiring kids to be creative in one way or another. And from the footage that I saw of Little Kids Rock, I can genuinely see on your face that you love doing it as well, contrary to some jokes we were making earlier. But tell us a bit about what's going on with Little Kids Rock.
Little Kids Rock puts the music back in the schools where the curriculum was taken out. That's the first thing to go into school is the music curriculum. Out. So Little Kids Rock teaches the teachers, like the history teacher or science teacher or whatever, how to play a guitar or a keyboard. Now they believe that a kid that learns one chord can play like 25 songs with that one chord. If you learn the second chord in the progression, you can play 50 songs. If you learned all three chords of that progression, there's 150 songs you can play.
True.
Yeah.
So, totally. And they teach them the songs that they want to learn now. Because how many people do you know that said, when I was a kid, I used to play piano, but I stopped playing because I was learning Mozart and all that kind of stuff like that.
Yes.
If you teach them what they want to learn now, they'll eventually go back to see where it came from and go back to that kind of stuff. Which is very important to do. It was started by this guy, Dave Wish. He was a school teacher out in the worst part of LA. He saw these kids hanging out after school, and he said, listen, I'll give you guitar lessons, but you got to come, all the time after school. You can't be hanging out. So he started out with 20 kids, and like over 500,000 kids have gone through Little Kids Rock already. Wow. And it's fantastic because I get to play these galas every year we do. They're fundraisers for Little Kids Rock. Will Lee, the bass player Will Lee, is the musical director. I play with, sometimes we play with Steve Miller, Usher shows up, people like that, come and we play with them. It's great. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Do you find right now, I love that. Do you find right now, obviously there's a little bit more barriers to it. Have there been any type of digital engagement? Has there been other methods to be able to connect with people? What do you think?
We do. I've done a lot of virtual things with Little Kids Rock. We actually did the gala. We did the first live one since the pandemic a couple of months ago at the new winery in New York. But the one before that it was a virtual one. With no music, we just hung out and just talked to people.
Yeah. Which that's a big thing too. Is just even mentoring people in making suggestions or life advice. Invaluable.
I learned something at a clinic once, and it was really. I was glad I learned it quickly, and I used to knock other bands and stuff like that. Like a lot of people. Can't stand what the music today and stuff like that, and they talk about it like I hate the music today. You sound like your father. Anyway, I said in the clinic that I didn't like Justin Bieber, right? And this young kid came up to me and just looked at me and he says, I like Justin Bieber. And I was like, oh man, to disappoint somebody.
Right.
Because when I was in 6th grade, I couldn't do the buzz roll in the Star Spangled Banner. And the teacher said, put the sticks down, DeVitto. You'll never do anything with the drums. It's like discouragement is one of the nastiest, cruelest things you can do to a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's stupid as it sounds, and I agree, his Justin Bieber was your Ringo Starr.
Exactly.
Was my Peter Criss, or you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's a little bit harder, and I say that generally, to find like who's Katy Perry's drummer these days, who's Justin Bieber's drummer these days. You do got to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole because it changes often. But inspiring the kid to go on that adventure to find those answers is probably the first step. I believe is kind of the first step. Send them on the journey of finding the information, right?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was great in A Hired Gun, when Jason Hook is in Five Finger Death Punch. And then you find out he played with Mandy Moore.
Yeah.
But actually, it's funny you mentioned that there was one line you said to me that resonated heavy. Was I think it was your mom that said, "You've had your turn. It's the young one's turn now."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know
do you
what?
feel like you've hit a legend status? And I say that in quotations, legend, that you get to let the kids have their time?
Well, the kids have to have their time. It's their time. I mean, rock music, we're still playing it, but it's like youth. It's for the youth, We have fun doing it because they have the energy. I was talking to Billy Joel, and I said, Billy, you should be writing songs about today and what's going on in the world today. And he said, no, it's the youth needs to speak about it because they see it from a different place. Right. It's their future that we're messing with.
Yes, they're
I'm almost gone. We're almost gone. We got more road behind us than we do in front of us. The youth, it's like we can do what we can do to fix what we screwed up for them, but they need to speak about it. And they need to get on the right track and talk about these things. That brings me to the Slim Kings, the other band that I play with. These guys, when I met them, were 20-something. Oh, go ahead, prep. Let's prep.
I love it. Because you must feel young, my friend, playing this. This is great music. Not saying your other stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. This is pocket playing. Yeah.
Now, Michael is the writer in the band. We all write the music, but Michael writes most of the lyrics. And he's younger and sees things from a different point of view, So he can speak about these things and feel strong about them, about what's going on in the world, what's going on in politics, everything that's going on. But it's funny because Billy Joel, on the last album that he did, on River of Dreams, the song that I play on that album, he wrote a song called Shades of Gray. And he states that how much easier it is to see life through the vision of youth. Everything is black and white, Now you get older, and it's like, maybe this is okay. I don't know if I like that. Well, there's a lot of gray. A lot of gray areas.
Yeah, bring that up again. At what point do you feel? I'm not going to get dark here for a second, but when do you start? Back in my day, this is how things used to be, and there's a fine line as we're all getting older, where back in my day isn't applicable because technology has changed so much, or the world has changed so much.
Right.
Like where does the middle ground happen, where people still come to you for valuable information moving forward, right?
Well, the only thing that I said talk about back in my day is like the music business back in my day. I mean, it's nothing like it was. I was just with my friend who worked for Sony Records, and he says it is nothing like it was when he started. He's ready to retire. And, now it's like, I mean, I just saw an article today where it said classic rock music is selling more than the music that's being made today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's, to me, it's the sign of the times. When you look at all the artists, their catalogs are getting bought.
Bye, Liberty. We love you. He'll be back. He'll be back. Keep on that thought, though. Keep on that thought. I'm glad he brought up Slim Kings. Slim Kings are awesome. I'm a big fan of Slim King. Here it comes back in. There we go, boy.
What happened? I just went away all of a sudden.
You said you were done and you left, and we were going to close her up. Go for it. Yep.
To me, you're seeing so much like Sony and Merck, his name, I forget the name of his company, but these big artists they're getting their catalogs bought out. Stevie Nicks' catalog got bought out. Fleetwood Mac's catalog. Aerosmith just sold their catalog. Bob Dylan sold his catalog.
And
then
Sting just sold his as well.
Yes, I think a lot of them are going to. They're poised to, because the reason being, and this was Merck is the guy, was one of the players. I forget where he's actually originally from Canada, but he lives in London, and he's got this huge conglomerate. He raised $2 billion in order to buy catalogs of artists. Ed Sheeran's got on his roster, and the stats he's listed are he said this in 2015. He said, I'm going to bet by the 2020s 80% of the music that's played will be catalog music and not new music. And the report that just came out from the American Recording Association is exactly that. It's 80-20. 80-20 catalog music and
it's amazing.
To new music.
Yeah.
So that's why they're buying catalogs.
You got it.
That's where the money's at.
So from a new business perspective, especially with the Slim Kings, for example, where you get to go in kind of equal playing field now, where you get to look at the business all together. Did you go into that project with a different headspace, business wise, I guess?
Yeah. I went into the Slim Kings. Yeah, when somebody has achieved what I did in music, like we're considered classic now, right? And they come out of that and they start a band. It usually sounds like the band that they were with. They sound like classic rock. It doesn't sound like anything new or anything like that. That's why I got with these younger guys, because they have young ideas. I'm the old school guy now. What connects us the most is that they'll play me a hip hop tune and they'll say, oh, can we do a song with a beat like this? And I'll say, that's a Motown beat. They sampled Motown. There's such a connection there. Yeah. But then they'll write lyrics that are very current, So there's a big connection. The bass player, Andy Astonazio, he plays with a lot of hip hop guys around Brooklyn and New York, So he's got that feel, that whole thing, So it's cool. They keep me fresh, new. Yeah.
Well, that's just it. You always want to play with somebody way younger just to remind yourself of how much older you are, but also to make you feel younger. Because let's be real, you have a young vibe. You have a very young vibe to you. You know what I mean?
Well, you're a dad to a young kid, so you have to be young.
Wow. Well, my daughters wouldn't let me walk out of the house with certain things on. They were like, "Come on!" And my wife is 46 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you're keeping young. Well, that's a good segue into this question. How did you manage touring while being in a relationship and having kids? How did you make it work, bud?
Well, I have to say, this is my third wife.
Okay, well, that's the answer.
So you didn't.
That answers that question. No, but
you're playing young music with a hip hop group now, so yeah.
But I have to say that when you think about it, you're leaving the house. And these little kids are around your ankles going, Daddy, don't go. And you say, oh, Daddy will be back in about 2.5 months. It's like pretty selfish. Yeah. But it's this thing. It's keep a relationship together when you do music like that, Yeah. It's really hard.
A lot of the time tours are just, I'm going on tour and it's like 3 gigs over the span of a weekend. But I say back in the day, I'm going to say that a lot tonight, tours were 6 months or 3 months. Like they were boom, right?
We went out for 18 months on the Turnstiles tour. We just kept going. Wow. Kept going. Wow. Yeah.
And I mean, exactly.
Nobody was married.
Yeah. Right.
That's
probably a caveat, I'm guessing. Yeah.
And to me too, Lib, there would be like nowadays, I mean, there are artists that I think some of them that don't even tour. They just back in the day, you had to tour in order to push album sales. In order to push, there was no way to watch or listen, even before MTV. Like how you had to buy the album or listen to the radio, and then that needed to be supported by touring.
That's one of my questions regarding Slim Kings. Is that the approach to the music business, but also the approach to selling the brand and selling the band must be very, very different as well. And are you inviting of that? You know what I mean?
It's very difficult. So we don't do that thing. I'm not a van, and I'm not going to travel around the country in a van. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
You know, I've done that and made somebody very wealthy. So,
Sadly,
but,
been down that road before.
quite.
But you know what? Bands today, you make good money when you get placements. Like if a movie picks up one of your songs, or a TV or a commercial or something like that. So that's what we hope for. That's, you know, you write your own material, you keep your publishing, and you go from there.
Yep.
Very different than back in the day. It's very passive income. You know, like you write it, you put it out in the world, and then you can just sit and play Nintendo all day and just wait for the checks to show up theoretically.
And interesting
with mechanical licensing, right? Yeah.
This will be a good segue because now there are people selling is vinyl's making a comeback, and vinyl sells for $40 a pop now.
Yeah,
but I think I know the answer. I think I know the answer to this question, Lib.
Do I still have my vinyl?
Do you?
I still have all my vinyl from when I was a kid. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You could put all your kids through school selling that. You're good to go.
I had to put them in storage. Half the stuff. There's so much vinyl.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
I love it. I just love holding a record. You know, I used to love like, you know, and
it's very different than iTunes or Spotify these days, right?
And I was going to say that when we were talking about doing the long tail of influences, I mean, again, I listen to vinyl, and back then I would check the credits, the sleeve credits, to see who was on what, who played what, and that's how I even became aware of Liberty or Steve Smith or any of these drummers. But now you don't necessarily. I mean, you could Google that, who is so and so's drummer, but that's their drummer live. That doesn't mean that's who was in the studio, or that doesn't mean that there wasn't a drummer that was programmed. That's not a real drum.
That's right.
Right. You'll never hear somebody say, like you used to say, like, that album, I loved it so much I wore it out. What are you going to wear out?
Yeah.
You know.
Actually, I would borderline disagree. There are, even with iTunes, when I get in the car, I have the same songs all the time, enough that when my wife and I are driving, she's like, you listen to the song a lot. I'm going to need you to like change it to something else. So I may not wear out the physical disc or the physical vinyl, but I can over listen to a song a lot. So
you're wearing out your wife. That's what you're wearing out.
100%. Yes.
You might wear.
It was Clive Bunker's birthday recently, and somebody said, would you do a video? And so I did. Happy birthday and the whole thing. And what an influence he was on me growing up. And I still had it, and I picked it up and I showed him the original vinyl of the first Jethro Tull album, you know, where he does this amazing solo on it. You know, I still have all my stuff, all my Rascals records and Beatles, you know, all that crap.
But you're not like, and I know people who collect a lot of vinyl that really make a point of like headphones, cognac, cigar, vinyl. I'm sitting, nobody disturb me. I'm listening to this album top to tail, and I'm going to make a night of it. Is there a ritual that is kind of lost these days?
The ritual that I have is when my wife says, I'm going to see my mother. You don't have to come. Ooh. That's what I know. Vinyl's going.
Nice.
And it's going up to 10. The volumes.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Play it for the world.
You know, I played. We have Sirius Radio too, you know, so the Beatles channel, of course, is on. My little 5-year-old, she knows more about the Beatles than most adults know. It's amazing. Yeah. She loved the Beatles. Now she loves the Monkees. Her mother used to work for the Monkees. So, you know, now she loves the Monkees.
I'm so glad you brought that up because, go. Yeah.
She'll tell you, like I'll be riding in the car and a Chuck Berry song will come on and I'll just say, May, who's this? And she just says, Chuck Berry. Oh, Little Richard. You know, she can identify them by hearing the sound.
Yeah.
She
needs to listen to more Justin Bieber. Maybe not.
No.
Yeah. No. But I was going to ask, like, are your children, you know, fans of what you have accomplished? Like, are they Billy Joel fans? Are they putting on some, Slim King's music? Are they proud of what's going on? I assume yes, but like, what are the challenges with that, right?
They love the Slim Kings. They love the sound of the Slim Kings and what we're doing. Yeah. They're proud of what I did with Billy.
Yeah.
Because they were always running, and my one daughter, Tori, who is as an actress, she's on TV and stuff like that, and she'll say her name, Tori DeVitto, and the people won't realize, they won't connect the DeVittos together, especially when she meets bands, and then she'll meet the drummer and stuff like that. Oh, I'm Tori DeVitto. And then somebody will drop a hint to the drummer, and then he'll freak out, like, "Oh my God, I didn't make the connection." It's like silly, but
I'm sure there's. Sean had to step out. He's having kid issues at the moment. He's got to take care of his 1-year-old for a sec. But you kind of hit it on the head there. That you may not be once again, respectfully, somebody who's like 10 right now may not get it, but what is the age in which somebody's like, "Oh my God, I know exactly who you are. Can I bend your ear and talk to you more?"
Well, it's really weird because my wife works, believe it or not, at the downtown at the. I'm thinking.
No, it's good. It's good. Take your time. Yeah. She works downtown. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, she works downtown at the stock exchange.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, and she'll go in there. She doesn't say anything about me or anything like that, and then she'll mention my name in passing, and then somebody will say, "Are you talking about the?"
Yeah. We've worked together 10 years, and you've never mentioned this.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny because out of all the bands that me and Max Weinberg are probably the most identifiable from the bands that we played with.
Couldn't agree more. Yes, absolutely.
Which is really cool. I mean, a lot of the guys are great players and stuff like that, but you don't know their names. Like, how many people know Stan Lynch played with?
Yeah. And I think you hit it on the head, as I say, that when you're a big fan of a band, you dive in on who all the band members are. Right. And nowadays, I think it's a little less, and I don't want to speak poorly about the music industry these days, but a lot of the marketing is just the main person, whether it's Katy Perry or I say Katy Perry, but Justin Bieber or whoever. The focal marketing person is the main person. But I do believe that up until, I want to say, the 80s or the 90s, everybody was marketed equally in the band. You would have been on lockers, in high school lockers, your face and everything. Am I right?
Well, there's drummers that I meet that are popular now in popular bands, and they used to have posters of me in their room.
Totally, right?
Yeah.
Can we find a poster of you? I want you up on the wall. Yeah. Is there a cool poster? You holding sticks in girls' lockers?
Yeah. The ads for Tama and the stuff.
Yeah.
Like
that. I had a poster of you on a Tom. It was like a green Tama kit or something, and yeah. It was like, and the hardware was green too, or something like that.
Yeah. But you meet those guys. You know who really was a bunch of fans that I was surprised with, like the heavy metal guys. They like freak out,
Yeah. The cross, it's a secret within like a lot of pop punk, for example, where those drummers are like bebop players or like they're jazz guys, right?
Yeah. Right.
Or, there's lots of cross genre and people just went into different styles. So absolutely that makes sense, right?
We kind of really crossed over a lot of genres, So like I'll be walking into NAMM show and Zigaboo from the Meters says to me, he goes, you have raised drumming to another level. It's like, you heard me? You know who I am?
Exactly.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. It says a lot about the parents that raised them as well. They put on the old tracks. My dad, I was raised on James Taylor, Supertramp, Doobie Brothers. Like those were staples. Whenever we got in the car or went on a road trip, I remember Doobie Brothers were just on all the time. And that was out of my age. I should have been listening to, more harder rock or whatever. But no, my dad gave me some good musical influences. Well, not to say, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's funny when that happens. It's like, these people that are so popular. Like, I remember Dino Danelli, from the Rascals. I interviewed him for Modern Drummer. They were doing a thing, podcast.
Yep.
And I sat down to talk to Dino. Now, Dino, Ringo was my first, he was the guy for me. Then Dino just blew him off the drum stool and just took over when I saw Dino play.
Nice.
So I'm interviewing Dino, and all of a sudden he starts talking to me and is telling me things that I'm doing. And I'm like, wait a minute. How do you know what I'm doing?
Amazing. Great example. Have you been starstruck? Have you met a drummer and just been like, starstruck? You had them up on your locker in high school?
Listen to me. I get starstruck by other people, like actors and stuff like that.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I across the street, the people that live across the street, her dad is he played Riff in the original movie of A West Side Story. I don't know if you ever saw it. He was over at the house one day, and I just freaked out. My wife said, "You better calm down. You're going to really ruin this whole relationship with us."
Fanboyed. Nice.
I fanboyed like nuts.
Yeah.
Fanboyed like nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, couldn't contain yourself.
I could. I was, between that and Hard Day's Night, those are my two favorite musicals.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So when I met Paul McCartney, I had to leave it. I worked in the studio. We did 2 songs together. When he walked in the studio and Linda walked in first and pointed at me, because I thought, what the hell they want with me? Who am I? That's Paul McCartney coming. She pointed at me and goes, "I know who you are. We've been watching your videos." I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? So I had to leave the room when he came in and shook my hand. I left the room and I said, "You got to calm down, buddy."
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel that? And just to flip the coin, do you feel that people fanboy around you?
They do. Yes.
How do you feel about that?
It's kind of weird.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a little weird. It's funny. When I was in high school, I loved the band Traffic. Steve Winwood was in Traffic.
Yep.
So when the people signed my yearbook, they said, keep your head, practice your drums, and one day you'll play with Steve Winwood. Well, Steve Winwood came in on the Bridge album and played on a song called Getting Closer. And I brought my yearbook to the studio and showed him.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We all, it's funny. You played with Bob James. Did you play with?
Yeah.
A big Bob James fan. I love Bob James. But I did a jazz festival, and he was headlining the weekend. And I just remember he was standing maybe about 50 feet away. And you know how in your head you're just like, I'm going to go talk to him. I'm going to say something. I'm going to go up. And before I could even think about it, my body was already moving towards him.
Yeah.
And then I'm hi, Bob. And he's like, hi, how are you? And I was like, I like your stuff. And he's like, oh, thanks. And then I turned around and walked away. That was the pinnacle of fanboy for me. It was so awkward. And I'm sure that he tells stories about that throughout his entire life. Love Bob. Have you ever experienced those type of things? Like, that's interesting, right?
That's I've done that kind of thing, but it was something really funny though. Was my brother, when we were on tour, we used to get these tour jackets, Billy Joel tour on the back. So I got one for my brother. He's hanging out in the bar once, and this girl comes up to him and goes, "Oh, you like Billy Joel?" And he's like, thinks like, okay, he's getting lucky because of the jacket.
Here we go.
He goes, "Yeah, I do. I know him too." And the girl looks at it and she goes, "Billy Joel sucks."
Damn. No chance. And that's where he goes, yeah, I agree with you. That's garbage.
Rip.
I love it. Let's go to this question. We brought it up earlier, but we'll address it now. If you're self-taught, did you pay attention to any rudiments, or did you go through any books? Did you read any books?
No.
Nothing.
Didn't realize. Well, you guys are going to have Dom Famularo on soon, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, me and Dom are really close. I've known Dom for many years. When I was playing weddings, we hired the band I was playing with had his uncle sing with my band.
That's awesome.
And his uncle used to talk about this guy, his nephew that played drums. Anyway, so I've known Dom for a long time. I don't know what I do, but he can explain it to me, which is fantastic.
That's right. Yeah.
Wait, I got to say that. You don't know what you do, but you need him to explain it to you.
Yeah. I just do what I do. But he'll go, oh, well, what you're doing is you're doing a blah, 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 blah.
You've subdivided this note and done this and permutated this note.
I did a thing. I did a fill once. It was really weird. It was like blah, 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 and he wrote it out. He said, "This is what you're playing."
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a really good burger you made, and I'm like, oh, it's just meat and some salt.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, no, you actually put like this amount of. Like, no, I don't care. I just meat and sauce, man. That's all I put on there.
It's true when you see it like that. It's like, wow, I did that.
Right. That's amazing. Let's look at this really quick. Were you at the Beatles live at Shea Stadium?
No, unfortunately, no. My sister actually saw them at the Singer Bowl or at somewhere in Queens, and you couldn't hear them.
Yeah.
Pretty.
Yeah. I guess back then, even Paul talks about that. Is that the PA equivalent of what they would have had back then is, it's just silly. Like,
right?
Basically, they're just cabinets with 8-inch speakers, and he's like, not much more than a kind of a stereo setup, really.
It's a good example of what you said before, playing to the back of the room when there's no mics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, weird.
And no one would have had monitors.
I just read George Martin had 2 books. The first one was from when he was very young up until the first Beatle album. And then the second one was all about the rest of the Beatle albums and after what he did with America and people like that. And he talks about how, you were watching the Ron Howard Beatle thing where the 8 days a week it was called, something like that.
Yep.
And you're listening to them at Shea Stadium, and it's like, this is crystal clear. This is beautiful. Turned out that was supposed to be a special for the BBC, that recording. But it was so badly recorded, that the Beatles had to go in and overdub to the film.
Wow. Yeah.
And George Martin says it was amazing how Paul played exactly to the film.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
That thing with him and Rick Rubin is just, again, you go deeper into Paul's brilliance. It's just like he was doing things that he's totally aware of, but you're not aware that he's doing that. Like the parts that he was playing on the bass that were driving the song, and they're almost guitar parts.
Yeah.
But yet he's sneaking it in as a bass player, and you don't even know he's such a sneaky
little bastard.
Brilliant dude.
Sneaky.
Right?
No, I don't know if we've referred to Paul McCartney as sneaky before. I like this.
Like he plays this sort of, I just got it. No, Paul is a fucking genius, and he's just so goddamn sneaky about it. You don't know that he is.
Did you guys watch Get Back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Come on. Let me tell you something. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, it's boring. They're fooling around too much. We used to fool around. That's exactly what it's like to be in the studio. Exactly. Yeah. The only thing that we had going for us was Phil Ramone had tighter reins on us, and he didn't let us. They were the Beatles. They could do whatever they want. They fucked around all the time. Oops.
We say it all the time.
We do.
Okay. So, but it was like that, and in my book, I mentioned this album that somebody sold me when I was working in a clothing store, and it was the first thing that actually turned my life around. And it was them rehearsing the tunes for "Let It Be," and it was so like not good. That was the first time I thought, well, I can be that bad. If I start here, I can be. I'm that bad now.
Yeah,
I can get better.
Upward trajectory every time. Yeah.
I always thought that they walked in the studio, put their guitars on, did the song, and left.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was that much work.
Yeah.
So to see that in the film, them actually doing those songs that were on that record that I got when I was 19 years old, was amazing to me. But the thing that struck me the most was Ringo sitting back there and just listening to what's going on. Just listening. Listening. And then when they hit the roof, he became Ringo Starr. Like, holy cow.
Yeah. Look, if I'm being honest, I wasn't a big Beatles listener. To be honest, I'm not still a big Beatles listener. I enjoy
Good night,
Beatles.
Everybody. Good night.
I don't. Thank you.
You want to see my slippers?
Thanks, everybody.
Here's my slippers.
Wait a second.
Look, here's my slippers.
Oh yes,
Yellow Submarine. I love it.
Awesome.
I love it.
Awesome.
Okay, well, this is a bad segue then.
You saw it here first,
I wasn't
folks.
a big Beatles listener, but I like the Beatles. Anyways, this is a rabbit hole that unnecessarily go down. But I watched the documentary, and it made me a fan because they suddenly became. And I don't want to bury the lead with my final question to you in a tiny bit, but they suddenly became a lot more human to me. That they were on such a pedestal forever, my entire life, that the moment I got to see them struggling, going through problems, the psychology of them talking to each other, Ringo sitting in the back and just being very observant, they became very human to me, and I connected with them a little bit more. And now I can empathize with every song that I hear better than just having to accept that they're amazing, listening to it and going, well, everybody for the past 40 years has said that they're amazing. Okay.
When I met Ringo, I said to him, I said, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. And he said, at least you're not blaming me for it.
I wonder how often that happens. Exactly.
Yeah. I saw you on the Untitled Show. I bought a set of drums and I lost my wife. I lost my car. I lost my house.
My life went entirely downhill the moment I listened to you. I blame you for everything.
I think, and I think that's the getting back to the get back. I looked at that and I know some people I've seen it commented it's so boring, but I'm like, you know what? If you really want and look into what the process of learning or creating an album, and unless you've recorded an album, that's the process. Right. It's so fucking boring sometimes. It's it is. I mean, spectacularly when you tell some of your jams, Lib, about just the way you are, or some of the other stuff. It's like those are peaks, but for the most part, it's all B-roll. It's just like sitting there going, okay, yeah, okay,
right,
and.
Right.
Even the fact, even when I noticed when all of a sudden Ringo's stage, his group or not his roadie came in, and they put the towel on the snare, and I'm like, yes, of course, yes. Like we're getting now to the meat and potatoes of it. Like we're starting to hear things that,
right,
and that's the reality of it. It's just fucking boring while you're doing it.
Yeah, that's how it was with Billy. Just like that. Sitting there and like, what are we going to do? And sometimes you would say, well, you can't polish a turd, man. Let's move on to the next one.
That's a fact.
That's right. And sometimes it's that unlocks the song you were working on.
Totally.
You never know, right? Which actually leads me to a question, Lib. And you've never struck me as this type of guy, but when you think about your path in life, and did you do any visualization? Did you say to yourself, oh, I can see myself on that stage with, these, I don't know who it is, but in a big stadium, did you, and I know this is a more modern philosophy that people say you visualize it and it can become a thing and you see it, you can, do it. Did you ever subscribe to that kind of a thing?
No, I think I never got past. This is great. I'm playing tonight, no matter where it was, whether it was a club down the block or I'm playing tonight. This is good. You know, I mean,
Just
I must admit,
appreciating it.
when I got to Madison Square Garden, and I stood up on Madison Square Garden, and I thought, this is it. This is it.
Yeah. Everything's downhill from here, by the way.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So, and for you, I've learned this with my son Jagger is how much those little ones are so in the moment, which is what causes the issues for me, because he doesn't give a shit what's happening in the next second. It's just like, I'm here right now, Dad.
Right.
But I get that from you when you say that. Cool, I'm playing right now. Is that you just appreciated every moment you were playing the drums?
Yeah. Well, you're behind that little. You're in that enclosure. It's like an astronaut getting in that space capsule and going, do you get excited? Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going into outer space.
Right.
Does it matter if you're going to Mars or the moon or where you're going around the world 3 times? Who cares? I'm in the capsule. Let's go.
Right. Yeah, you're doing it. You're doing it for real. Yeah. Interesting.
And that's what you wanted to do, even better. You're not just doing it because you're forced to, or you're the guy. You're the guy to do it. That's awesome. I'm being a little aware of time. I'm being respectful of your time. It's getting a little late for you there. But I thought we would wind her down a tiny bit here. Is that cool?
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make my wife happy.
That's the deal. That is literally the most important thing. Sorry,
I'm in the bedroom. She can't go to sleep until I'm out of here.
Oh, well, let's get out of here then. That's exactly. I love it.
Before you ask your question, Paul, we have one question from chat here. Do you ever use chiropractic to enhance your performance?
I've gone to physical therapy. You start to fall apart when you get older.
Sure.
Like my shoulders, my elbows, back, all that stuff starts to show up.
Yeah.
But that's what I said before, like 4 Advil before I go on, and it's like the pain is gone. And your adrenaline, it starts to kick in, your endorphins, and you feel great. That's what I love about playing. It's like I feel great when I'm doing it.
It does feel like a workout, literally, right?
Yeah. Me and Billy,
absolutely,
me and Billy were talking at the last luncheon we had together about the 19-year-old. The 19-year-old is in there. He's always in there. And, sometimes you want the 19-year-old to go away. But I said, Billy, I feel it's so important for the 19-year-old to come up on stage with me. He's got to come on stage, And when he shows up, it's like, bam, this is it.
Right. Yep.
Brilliant. Yeah. That's part of your branding. That's part of who you are. You're high energy, you're young vibe, you associating yourself, especially with the Slim Kings, with some young people, you're connecting with some awesome younger audience, and you're still a goddamn legend.
Right. That's funny. That's funny. You don't think about what you did. When I wrote the book and they were putting together what the press was going to say and all that kind of stuff, and they started to list these things like you played on 23 of Billy Joel's 24 top 40 hits. It's like, we did that many, Grammy award winning albums and we did.
Right.
I'll pull this up, although everybody knows this. Great example. There you go, dude. Like,
wow.
What is that?
Well, that's your wiki page there, Bubs.
Your Wikipedia.
Yeah. You played on a lot of albums, man. A lot of influential albums. You've done some great stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's what you do.
I love it.
I actually, it's unfortunate. You've lost a couple of good friends this year, Lib, between Meatloaf and Ronnie.
Yeah.
When you think about, if you can reminisce, and again, as I didn't know either of those people, but what are some of the best memories you have of either Ronnie and Meat?
Well, Ronnie, when I parted ways with Billy, Ronnie really, like, when she took me into the band, we were playing, we had a band, we played at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We played with anybody that came. The only thing we didn't do was the induction, the ceremony. but we did everything else for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And they used to do this thing, a gala, where they would invite like 8 to 10 different artists would come. And we would play 2 or 3 songs with each one of these artists. Everybody from Mitch Ryder to Tone Loc to, everybody like that. And we had to play their songs. And Ronnie was one of them. And when she was looking for somebody to play drums, they called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they got my number, and she called me. And it was the first time, like, she brought me back to life again. Like, to be playing and going and traveling on an airplane again and playing with what I consider the queen of rock and roll.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, if you're going to play with somebody else, this is the person to play with. And she was just great. I remember when somebody was talking to me and they mentioned that I was having another baby, she turned to me and she just looked at me and go, "What are you, Mick Jagger?"
Great.
We sat in the dressing room once and we talked about, my situation with Billy and her situation with Phil Spector and how they'll it'll come back to them,
Yep.
So she was really special. And Meatloaf was great. I mean, I got the phone call. I couldn't believe that he called me on the phone,
Yeah, wow.
Like, hey, would you play on my record? Yeah. And that's where I met Davy Johnstone and Roy Bittan, It was great.
And did you meet Meatloaf's writer Jim at all, or was it just like a set?
He was there.
Yeah, he was there. Okay. Yeah. But it makes sense to me when I think about it. Like, your intensity absolutely is right up their alley. Absolutely, like, especially Angry Young Man or like stuff like that. The intensity you bring would definitely translate to a Meatloaf album.
Well, it was great. We played the NAMM show with Ronnie Spector.
Yeah,
I guess it was like 2, 3, 4 years ago. I don't know, but they brought in Hal Blaine to play "Be My Baby."
Cool.
And Ronnie, because Hal is so old and, he's like 80 something years old by then.
Yeah.
And Ronnie said, "You have to play with him. Please,
I
want you to play with him."
Wow.
So I got to play with Hal Blaine the last time he played live.
Oh, shit. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Very awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. If I could paint a picture of a scene from an Italian restaurant, which Italian restaurant would you go to? And who would you go there with?
Well, I always go to this restaurant called Cataldo's. It's around the block from here, and nice. I love the people. They're like family to us. But that song was originally written. He was in a restaurant called Fontana di Trevi, which was across the street from Carnegie Hall, and the waiter did come up to him and go, "Bottle of white, bottle of red,"
Nice.
"What are you in the mood tonight?"
That's so cool.
Wow.
And he had the Brenda and Eddie part first. We were playing that, just the Brenda and Eddie part.
Yeah. Huh. And who would you bring to the restaurant?
Oh, I'd have to bring my wife.
Can't bring
you have to.
Can't bring my girlfriend.
But nice, exactly.
I was talking about that with my wife today. I was like, I mean, and given the COVID stuff, but just I said to be in a little Italian restaurant, and never mind that, but in New York. I mean, oh my God, like that would just be, we missed an opportunity. There was this great place in Seattle that apparently John Gotti's been to and Henry Hill's been to, and we missed our reservation, so we weren't able to go. But I mean, some of the history in some of those restaurants, I bet down in Brooklyn, or if the walls could talk.
Sure.
Right.
You go to Little Italy in Manhattan, and there's all those, Umberto's.
Yeah, Umberto's.
One of them came walking out and got shot in the street.
Yeah, Sparks Steakhouse. Yeah.
It's coincidental, but I usually pull a card, and that'll make sense in a second, and segue into that question sometime during an interview. And I happened to pull this card earlier, and I was finding a moment to bring it into conversation. Oh, what do you love about your hometown?
Where I grew up, or this?
It could be either. Where you are right now. What do you love about it? What do you love about where you are right now?
I personally feel that you have a love-hate relationship wherever you live. Wherever you live, you have a love-hate relationship with it. Because I love the fact that I could fall out of bed and I can hit 10, 20 great restaurants with just going a block.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or I can just call them on the phone and they bring food to me.
True.
Yeah. You know, that's great. Yeah. But I hate that it's so crowded. There's so many people. That's why COVID was so tough, because you couldn't go outside because there's always people there. Every time I open the curtain, there's somebody out there.
Out there.
Yeah.
But then
we feel that in Vancouver. We're downtown Vancouver, and we felt that for sure.
I love Vancouver.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people here, and even if 1% goes for a walk, it's still a lot of people, right?
We used to stay at a place that was right on the harbor. You could see the seaplanes land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few blocks from here. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Loved it.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Different
vibe. There was a show I watched on Vice. It was called The Pizza Show, and the guy that hosted the pizza show has a pizzeria in Brooklyn, and he makes, like, he's the real deal. Like, he's a pizziolo, so he's been rated by, you know, the place in Italy that rates pizziolos, and he makes his own mozzarella. And I mean, he went to all the boroughs, and then he went to every city. He did Chicago deep dish. He went to St. Louis. He did. I tell you, it was. Yeah, he did Brooklyn, but that's where he's from, is Brooklyn, and it just, every time I've watched that show, it's just like, I mean, I get hungry when I eat the show, or watch the show. So, but it's so fascinating, the history behind some of that, the pizzerias, just in New York. The history of some of those places is phenomenal. Like, it's the weirdest things that have gone on, that, like, the one guy, the oven that he bought it from Al Capone, and this oven had, like, history, and there's, like, nefarious things that have happened apparently around the oven. Oh, it's just like, it's just hilarious. But he literally had 3 seasons of a show about pizza.
Yeah,
I could talk about pizza for hours. So,
well, there's my favorite pizza place is in Bensonhurst. It's called Spumoni Gardens. And it's great. It's a square pizza, you know, really thick, and they put the cheese under the sauce. It's really
right. Which, that's a style too, right?
Yeah, like, it's like Sicilian pizza.
Sicilian pizza. That's right. Yeah. I mean, I never knew there was so much history of pizza.
Spumoni.
There it is.
Yeah, it is. Just like that. Yeah, delicious.
Yeah, right there. I mean, now I'm starving.
Okay. Everybody just calm down on the pizza. God, Lord.
Deep dish is Chicago. Deep dish.
I'm a fan of Brooklyn. I like pizza I can fold.
Yeah, folding's good.
Foldy pizza. Yeah, for sure.
When I was a kid, we used to judge it by how much grease went down your arm when you
totally. So, coming from a true Italian, you're telling me that's how I'm supposed to judge pizza. Perfect. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, let's give the home back to your wife. How does that sound? Let's end her up here. I have one final question that I always ask, and at every clinic, Sean knows this. At every clinic that I go to, I always ask the drummer the same question, and I've adapted it into this, and I'm going to ask you it right now. Okay. It's easy to put our heroes on a pedestal, but they appear more human when we see them fail. So can you describe, and normally I would say to the drummer, can you play? But can you describe something that you have not perfected so that we can hear you fail, and maybe talk about the challenges you are to try to perfect that?
Well, when they release, you mean musically or like marriages and stuff like that?
Anything in life. Well, when we changed over to this format, it can be anything. But if you're on stage drumming, it'd be drumming.
Listen, I'm trying to. This is it for me. I'm not getting married again, but I still have rough edges.
Sure.
I mean, I failed twice. You know,
third time's a charm.
Yeah, third time's a charm. Yeah. You know, I'm one less than Billy. So
perfect. It's a win. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because my friend Jeff Carlisi, who played guitar in 38 Special, that band 38 Special, I go to his house sometimes. He lived in Atlanta for a while. And I would go into this little room, and he'd point and he'd say, "See that guitar right there? That's the first guitar I ever had." And I would look around and I go, I get it now. You're married to the same woman all your life. You still have your shit. I don't have anything anymore. It's all gone.
Wow. Yeah.
I owned a house. When I left with a suitcase with some clothes in it and my records. That was it.
Yeah. And not to put it too bluntly, but you acknowledge you've got some rough edges. You got some things you're working on. You're doing stuff, right?
Oh yeah. I have a life coach. I mean, I haven't spoken to him in a while because the pandemic even got her confused. But she's talked me off the ledge a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's important. Perspective and self-reflection.
Well, when I was getting my second divorce, they said, would you be interested in taking, like, I guess the equivalent to Prozac or something like that, to calm down because I was so. And my friend told me, he goes, they take the edge off, the crazy edge, the high edge, the lows, and the creative edge gets shrunk down too.
Yeah.
When they do that.
Right.
So it's like, my question to you guys is, does the music make you insane, or are you insane to make the music?
Okay. Go ahead.
Right off the hop, because my wife and I are in a duo together, and we've been recording over the pandemic, and we had our son and recorded an album together. I think being insane is a prerequisite to recording music.
Yeah,
absolutely. You have to be out of your fucking mind.
I would agree. I would agree. The insanity to do what we do when we could easily just pick up a hammer and do construction, or we could just do something. Or make pizza. You could just be a pizza guy. You could just very low tier do something that's less stressful, less taxing on relationships, less taxing on your time.
Right.
We are crazy, in my opinion. I am crazy to even want to go down the adventure of the music industry.
And get into a business that's more corrupt than anything the mafia does.
Totally. What a great way to end the stream. Yikes.
Yeah. All you young musicians out there, good luck.
Oh, I love it.
That's like passion, baby, passion.
I love it, dude. Today has been a lot of fun. We kept you way longer than necessary, so please thank your wife for us. But we really appreciate you hanging out with us today.
Yeah, it was fun.
I really feel like we learned a lot. I'm excited about Little Kids Rocks. I'm excited about the Slim Kings. Your book. I'm excited to dive into that and get some good background. And I think we answered some good questions of some fans who hung out with us.
Lords of 52nd Street.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah.
2nd Street, yeah.
Thank you, yeah. It's been uber fun, so thank you very much for your time today. It was great to get to know you. Yeah.
He's the guy that likes my slippers.
Well, why don't we be clear here? Sean, are you wearing pajama pants?
Who knows? You
Yep.
never know. Maybe I'm not wearing any pants right now.
That's a good point. I'll be clear.
Again,
I am. I'm wearing
you
pajama
gotta
pants.
be insane to be in the business, right?
That's absolutely
You gotta
right. Sean, why don't you close us up here? What do you got?
So coming up, of course, one of Lib's best buddies is Dom Famularo on February 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to be live streaming with Dom as well, and we'll ask him about the Famularos and the infamous uncle that played for Liberty at one time. And then, of course, we've got Thomas Lang, the incredible Thomas Lang, coming up on February 5th. So that's a week from today, at 1 p.m. Pacific, and then of course that's 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're still not answered the question whether or not Thomas would challenge you, Paul, to a Mario Kart. But
yeah, I'm curious about that.
Liberty,
I'm a bit of a gamer. My other streams are pop culture celebration of retro and video games and cartoons and that type of stuff. So maybe next time you're on, if you do play any type of video games, we compete against each other. Maybe
I don't.
Oh, well, there's always time, son. There's always time.
He's played. That's right.
You got a kid. You got a, how old? 5? 5 years old?
Five.
Oh yeah, Nintendo Switch time. You're going to be playing Mario Kart and all the video games in no time. You have to. So we'll get you in. Awesome. So let's close her up here, Sean. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks for everyone for joining us.
Yeah. And Liberty, if you want to if you want to hang around Liberty, we'll do a little bit of back patting directly afterwards in a couple minutes.
Okay.
And then we'll let you go. Cool?
Yeah.
Drumgeek.com. Anyone that's interested in what we're doing next in the next live stream, we do a lot of these, and we're trying to do them like this, a little bit more like watching drummers in their element, as opposed to what kind of sticks do you use, and when did you blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. And again, it's, as always for me, it's a huge honor to be talking to guys like Lib and Dom. These are the people that made me want to play drums. So I appreciate you, Lib. And it was really great hanging with you. And I appreciate you too, Paul.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, I like your haircut for sure. I think that's why we get along.
Oh, I'm Henry, by the way. Henry giving tips.
Oh, is that the deal?
I get it in the mail. Henry.
Oh,
you're Henry.
High class. That is high class, right there.
I considered Henry's, but
yes,
I'm a
nice.
dollar
that is high.
shave club man.
That's high class right there.
Okay. Close her up. We're good.
Alrighty. We're gonna say goodbye. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you on February 1st with Dawn.
Bye.
Take care.